Hi friends, my name is Brooke and I want to thank you for joining me to practice some math. Today we are working on the order of operations. So the order of operations is kind of like a checklist that tells us what steps to do in what order when we see math problems that have lots of different pieces. So the phrase that we'll use to help us to remember the order of operations is the English phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." So if you're a native English speaker, you may have heard that phrase before, and it might be familiar to you. Otherwise, if you speak another language, I encourage you to come up with a special phrase or something that will help you to remember which steps to do in which order. The reason we need the order of operations is because when we see long math problems, we might all solve them in different ways and get different answers. The order of operations helps us all to follow a set of guidelines so that we can all get the same answer and kind of relate to each other when we work on these problems. So the order of steps, P stands for parentheses. So if we see any steps inside parentheses, we will do those first. E stands for exponents. That's our second part. M and D stand for multiplication and division. We will do whatever comes first from left to right, and I will tell you more about that in just a moment. The A and S stand for addition and subtraction. Same with those steps, we will do whatever comes first from left to right. At the bottom of this diagram, it just reminds you of that English phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," that you may have heard before to help you to remember these. Otherwise, if that phrase does not help you, you do not have to memorize that phrase. We'll do a few problems together, and I'll show you what we mean in our order of operations. This is our first example problem. You can see that we have lots of steps. The order of operations tells us what to do in which order. So 5 times 8 is what we do first. We remember the phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Otherwise, like I mentioned, you might think of another phrase that can help you to remember the steps. The P stands for parentheses. The E stands for exponents. So we might see a base number raised to the power of another number. M and D stand for multiplication and division, and we do those from left to right. A and S stands for addition and subtraction. So in this problem, I do see some parentheses. I need to start with 5 times 8, which gives me 40. I wrote my 40, and then I copied down the rest of the problem. So as I scan through this problem now, I do see an exponent. That's our next step. Remember, an exponent tells you how to build a multiplication problem. So right now, I'm solving for the exponent 5 to the second power, and 5 to the second power is the same as 5 times 5. And that gives me an answer of 25. So I wrote down my 25, and I copied down everything else in the problem. Next up, we have multiplication and division. This is the tricky part. I need to do whichever one comes first from left to right. So in my problem, I see division before I see multiplication as I'm going from left to right. Even though my phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," even though that phrase has M coming before D, it is very important that I look for both of them at the same time and do whatever comes first from left to right. So I did do 25 divided by 5 next. 25 divided by 5 gives us 5. So I wrote my 5, and I copied down everything around it. Copied down the 40 and the minus sign, and my times 2 plus 1. So now I'm just down to multiplication. I see 5 times 2. Multiplication still comes before addition and subtraction. So I needed to do my 5 times 2 to give me 10. So I wrote my 10, copied down everything around it. Next, I need to do addition and subtraction. Same thing, I look for those going from left to right. Same thing in our phrase, we say Aunt and then Sally, but the A, so the A doesn't always come first. We know that we need to work from left to right. So we do see subtraction first, going from left to right. 4 minus 10 gives us 30. So now we have 30 plus 1, which gives us a final answer of 31. Today we have 24 practice problems. We will do all of them together in this video, but I do encourage you to pause the video when you start feeling confident and practice some on your own, and then return back to the video to double check your work. But here is number 1. Let's practice using the order of operations. In our problem, we know that we should do parentheses first. So parentheses, of course, look like this. So we need to start with what's inside the parentheses. We've got 4 minus 2, and that gives us 2. Once we solve that portion, we copy down everything around it. I'm copying my plus sign and my 4 squared. And then I'm going to copy down my 4 times 5 and my plus sign. So now I scan through my problem again, and I do see exponents. We see 4 to the second power. 4 to the second power is the same as 4 times 4, which gives us 16. So instead of 4 to the second power, now I can write 16, and then I can copy down everything around it. I've got 4 times 5 plus 2. So I've done my exponent. Now I need to think about multiplication and division and do whatever comes first from left to right. I do see some multiplication. 4 times 5 gives us 20. And I copy down everything around it. 20 plus 2 plus 16. Now I am just down to addition. 20 plus 2 gives me 22. So finally, my very last step, 22 plus 16 gives us a final answer of 38. So if you are working on this independently, you may have done this in a different order. But remember, our order of operations is designed so that we all get the same answer at the very end. So we all need to do all of the steps in the same order. Let's try out number 2. So again, we're using our order of operations as kind of a checklist to remind us of what to do in what order. In this problem, I do not see parentheses, and I also do not see exponents. So just using that order of operations as a checklist, that's what I looked for. And since I didn't see either of those, I can go ahead and start thinking about multiplication and division from left to right, and addition and subtraction. So on this problem, I am going to show you the correct way, and then I'm going to show you what happens when we do not follow the order of operations. So on this one, we need to do multiplication and division, but I need to make sure I'm doing whatever comes first from left to right. So I'm starting out with 10 divided by 2. That's what comes first as I'm moving from left to right. 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. So I write my 5 and I copy down everything around it. I still need to finish my multiplication before I can move on to subtraction. 5 times 3 gives us 15. So now I have 30 minus 15. 30 minus 15 gives us a final answer of 15. So this is our correct answer. Very quickly, I want to show you what happens when we don't follow the order of operations. So here's our original problem, 30 minus 10 divided by 2 times 3. So let's say that I did not do the order of operations. Let's say that I think that multiplication always comes before division. So let's say I started with my multiplication. 2 times 3 gives us 6. So now I've got 10 divided by 6. And here's my 30 and my minus sign. So now I would probably get a little stuck. 10 divided by 6 gives us a decimal. So I would end up with a very different answer. I would have 30 minus, let's see what 10 divided by 6 gives us. So 10 divided by 6 gives us 1.66 repeating. And so I would get a final answer of 30 minus 1.666. I would get a final answer of 28.334. So we can see that it is very important to follow our order of operations so that we can all agree on the same answer when we see the same problem. So the correct answer in this problem is 15, and this strategy down here was incorrect. So that shows us why it's so important to remember that left to right rule and why it's important to follow the order of operations in general. Here is number 3. So I always think through my order of operations kind of as a checklist. So I'm looking for parentheses first, but of course I do not see parentheses in this problem. So the next thing I look for is an exponent. And I do see an exponent. We see 5 to the second power, which is the same as 5 times 5. 5 times 5 gives us 25. So instead of writing our 5 squared, we can go ahead and write 25 and then copy down the plus 5. We did not have to worry about multiplication and division in this problem, so I just finished up with my addition. 25 plus 5 gives us a final answer of 30. Let's try out number 4. So we always think through our checklist. I do not see parentheses, I do not see an exponent, and I do not see multiplication or division. So I can just think about addition and subtraction going from left to right. 2 plus 5 gives us 7. So I write my 7, copy down my minus 4. Finally, 7 minus 4 gives us a final answer of 3. Here is number 5. So thinking through our order of operations, I do not see parentheses. I also do not see exponents, but I do see multiplication and division. So I'm going to do those going from left to right. Negative 2 times 6 gives us an answer of negative 12. 2 times 6 is 12, and they had different signs, so I do get a negative answer. So now I've got negative 12 divided by 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. And again, since they have different signs, we are going to get a negative answer. Negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. Here is number 6. This time I do see parentheses, so that should be the first thing that I think about. I see negative 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. And they do have different signs, so I get a negative answer. Now I know that I should do negative 6 squared. So negative 6 squared, remember it's telling you to build a multiplication problem. And that multiplication problem is going to be negative 6 times negative 6. That gives us a final answer of 36. Here is number 7. So we are seeing something a little different in number 7. This is an example of what's called a grouping symbol. So this is a symbol that acts kind of like parentheses. It also acts as division. We can see that this bar splits our problem into two different parts, just like a set of parentheses does. It groups our 9 times 2 and our 6 separately. So it's working like parentheses, and it also looks familiar to us from when we were doing division. We know that anything that looks like a fraction is really telling us to do division. So here is another way to write this problem. Again, this bar was working like parentheses, so it really was telling us to split up 9 times 2 in one group. And this bar was also telling us to do division. So this is just another way to write this same problem. So now that I know how to interpret this line, I can go ahead and solve my problem. I can do my parentheses. So I need to start with 9 times 2 to get 18. And now my problem is just 18 divided by 6. So our final answer for this problem is 3. Here is number 8. We see that bar again. It's a grouping symbol because it groups our 3 times 2 together, and it also shows us division. So we will think through our problem the same way. This is saying 12 divided by 3 times 2. And that bar reminds us to keep 3 times 2 together. So now that we see our problem like this, I know that I should start with my parentheses and do 3 times 2, which gives me 6. So now I've got 12 divided by 6. My final answer is 2. Here is number 9. Again, in number 9, I see parentheses, so that's the first part that I should start with. Something to know about parentheses is that even inside the parentheses, we still need to be thinking about the order of operations. We know in our order of operations that multiplication comes before subtraction, so I do need to start with 2 times 5. 2 times 5 gives us 10. And then I'll copy down everything around it. 10 minus 4 will stay inside the parentheses. We'll have our division symbol. Then I'll also copy down the 12. So now I can continue to solve. Still working with our parentheses, and I'm doing 10 minus 4, which gives me 6. Copy down the 12 and the division symbol. For my final answer, I know that 12 divided by 6 gives us 2. Here is number 10. Same thing with number 10. I see a couple operations inside the parentheses. And even inside the parentheses, I do need to think about my division coming before addition. So 3 divided by 3 is what I should do first. 3 divided by 3 gives us 1. So I copy down everything around it. 1 plus 1 with parentheses around it times 3. So I finish what's inside the parentheses. 1 plus 1 gives us 2. So now I can do 2 times 3 to get my final answer of 6. Here is number 11. So we are still following our order of operations, and I do see parentheses. So I see 6 minus 5, and that gives me 1. One thing I notice is that I've got a number right next to parentheses. So this part is telling me to do multiplication. So I still need to keep that 1 inside the parentheses because these parentheses have two meanings. They're telling me to group 6 minus 5 together, and they're also telling me to multiply. And I haven't done that multiplication step just yet. So I do need to show those parentheses again to tell myself to multiply as well in this next row. So this is still showing me multiplication. Just like above, these parentheses had two different roles. So now it's doing its job for multiplication, and I know that multiplication comes before subtraction. 6 times 1 is 6. So now 6 minus 5 gives us a final answer of 1. Here is number 12. We are halfway there. So remembering what we learned about this grouping symbol, we know that I should rewrite it with all of these operations together in parentheses, and then it's going to be divided by 2. So this is another way to write this problem. 9 times 2 minus 6 inside parentheses divided by 2. So even inside my parentheses, I do need to follow the order of operations and do multiplication before subtraction. 9 times 2 is 18, and then I copy down everything around it. So my 18 minus 6 still stays in parentheses, and then I'm going to divide that by 2. I still do parentheses before I do division. 18 minus 6 gives us 12. So now I have 12 divided by 2, which is a final answer of 6. Here is number 13. At first it looks really overwhelming, but I'm going to remind myself that I do have the order of operations to help me to decide what to do. So first I'm just going to scan through the problem. I see multiplication, addition and subtraction, and division. So, since I do not see parentheses or exponents, I need to start by focusing on multiplication and division first, going from left to right. So right away, I see multiplication. I need to start with 3 times 8, which gives me 24. Once I have my 24, I should copy down everything next to it. So copying down the rest of the problem. So now in my problem, I see addition, subtraction, and division. I know that division should come before addition and subtraction. 6 divided by 2 gives us 3, and I copy down everything around it. Now I just have addition and subtraction, and I need to do my addition and subtraction from left to right. That's very important in this problem. 24 plus 20 gives us 44. So now I have 44 minus 3 plus 3. And again, I do need to work from left to right. 44 minus 3 gives us 41. So now we have 41 plus 3, which gives us a final answer of 44. So there is a very common mistake that you might make in this problem. So one thing that people tend to do in this problem, 44 minus 3 plus 3, they get all the way to this step, and then the part 3 plus 3 catches their eye because that's really easy to think about in your head. 3 plus 3 gives us 6. So sometimes people forget the left to right rule and do that 3 plus 3 first to get 6, and then we end up with a final answer of 38. So this is another problem where it is very important to remember your order of operations and especially to know the left to right rule. When you see addition and subtraction, we do whatever comes first from left to right. Here is number 14. Looking at number 14, we think through our checklist. We do not see parentheses, so we should start with our exponent. Remember that an exponent tells you to build a multiplication problem. For 7 squared, we need to see the number 7, and we need to put it in a multiplication problem 2 times. So that's telling us to do 7 times itself, just 2 times. 7 times 7 gives us 49. So now we can fill in our 49 and copy down everything around it. We've got 49 times 2 divided by 1 minus 10. Now I see multiplication, division, and subtraction. I know that I should do my multiplication and division from left to right. 49 times 2 gives us 98. So now we have 98 divided by 1 minus 10. 98 divided by 1 is 98. Minus 10 gives us 88. So 88 is our final answer for number 14. Here is number 15. Every time I see these problems, I think through the order of operations, and I know that I should be working with parentheses first. 17 minus 5 gives us 12, and I can copy down everything around it. 12 plus 2 times 12 divided by 4. Now I see addition, multiplication, and division. I know that I should do multiplication and division next from left to right. So my multiplication should come first. I should do 2 times 12 to get 24. And then I copy down divided by 4 and my plus sign and my 12. Now I know that division should come before addition. 24 divided by 4 gives us 6. So now I have 12 plus 6, which gives me a final answer of 18. Here is number 16. I know that I should do my parentheses first. 3 plus 2 gives us 5. And I should copy down everything around it. So I'm copying down my plus 5 squared, and I'm copying down my 5 and my multiplication sign. So now I see multiplication, addition, and an exponent. I know that exponents come before multiplication, division, and addition and subtraction, so my exponent is what I should do next. I see 5 squared, and it's telling me to build a multiplication problem. I need to see the number 5 in my multiplication problem, and it needs to be multiplied times itself 2 times. So that means 5 times 5, which gives me 25. So instead of writing 5 squared, I can write 25, and I can copy down everything around it. So there's my plus sign. Here's my 5 times 5. So now I see multiplication and addition. I know that multiplication should come before addition. So I'm going to do 5 times 5, which gives us 25. So now my problem says 25 plus 25, which gives us a final answer of 50. Here is number 17. I do see parentheses, so I know that that is what I should do first. 1 plus 2 gives us 3. And then I copy down everything around it. 25 minus 33, and then my division symbol. So, doing my division first, 33 divided by 3 gives us 11. So now I've got 25 minus 11, which gives us a final answer of 14. Here is number 18. I see division, multiplication, and subtraction. I know that multiplication and division should come before subtraction, and I should do my multiplication and division from left to right. So in this problem, I am actually doing my division before my multiplication. 24 divided by 8 gives us 3, and then we copy down everything around it. 3 times 11 minus 7. 3 times 11 gives us 33. So now we have 33 minus 7, which gives us a final answer of 26. Here's our last page of practice problems. So we'll start with number 19. I do see parentheses in this problem, so that's what I should do first. 4 minus 1 gives us 3. And then I also notice that there's an exponent outside of those parentheses, so I'm just going to put that exponent right next to the 3. So we've got 3 squared plus 3 squared times 2. I know that exponents come before multiplication, so when I see 3 squared, it's telling me to build a multiplication problem with the number 3 in it, times itself 2 times. 3 times 3 gives us an answer of 9. So in both spots where I see 3 to the second power, I'm going to write 9. 9 plus 9 times 2. Now I'm down to addition and multiplication. I know that multiplication should come before addition. 9 times 2 is 18. And then I copy down my plus sign and my 9. 9 plus 18 gives us a final answer of 27. Here is number 20. So I do see an exponent, and that is what I should start with first. This exponent is telling me to do a multiplication problem that has a negative 2 in it, and I need to be multiplying negative 2 times itself 2 times. Negative 2 times negative 2 gives us a positive 4. 2 times 2 is 4, and since they have the same signs, we do get a positive answer. So now I can write a 4, and I can copy down the rest of the problem. 4 plus 2 times 3 divided by 6. So now in my problem, I see multiplication, division, and addition. So know that I should be doing multiplication and division first from left to right. 2 times 3 gives us 6. So now I have 6 divided by 6. I'm going to copy down my plus sign and my 4. We know that division comes before addition. So I'm doing 6 divided by 6 to get 1. And now I've just got 4 plus 1, which gives us 5. Here is number 21. We do start with our exponent. Our exponent is telling us to do -6 times -6. 6 times 6 is 36, and since they do have the same signs, we get a positive answer. So I'm writing 36 plus 9 divided by 3 minus a -10. So now in my problem, I see addition, division, and subtraction. I know that division should come before addition and subtraction. So I can start with my 9 divided by 3, which gives me 3, and then I'll copy down everything around it. So I need my minus, -10, and my 36, and my plus. Now all I see is addition and subtraction, and I know that I should do those from left to right. 36 plus 3 gives us 39, minus a -10. So this is where it gets tricky. Since I see a subtraction sign in the middle, I know that I should use the phrase keep, change, change. So for 39 minus -10, I can split it into its pieces and say keep, change, change. We keep the 39, change from a minus to a plus, and change from a -10 to a positive 10. 39 plus 10 gives us 49. So our final answer to number 21 is 49. Here is number 22. So these are getting tougher and tougher, but we always follow the same steps. I see an exponent, and I know that this exponent is telling me to build a multiplication problem where we see the number -4, and we're multiplying it times itself 3 times. So -4 times -4 times -4. -4 times -4 gives us a positive 16. So now we've got 16 times a -4. 16 times 4 is 64. And then they did have different signs on this step. So we do get a -64. So that part was pretty tough, but now I know where I see -4 to the 3rd power, I can just write -64 and copy down the rest of the problem. So here's a plus sign and a -9, and then I copy down our minus sign and my 2 times 10. So now I see multiplication, I see subtraction, and I see addition. I know that multiplication comes before addition and subtraction, so I should start with 2 times 10, which gives us 20. So I write my 20 and I copy down the rest of the problem. So now I should be doing my addition and subtraction from left to right. So this is another tough portion of our problem. 20 minus a -64. So since I see subtraction, I can say keep, change, change. Keep the 20, change from a minus to a plus, and change from a -64 to a positive 64. So now it really just looks like 20 plus 64, which gives us 84. Now I can write 84 plus -9. So now I see an addition problem that has different signs. So when we see addition with different signs, we say different sign subtract. 84 minus 9 gives us 75. And then our higher absolute value was positive, so our final answer is positive. So this was one of our toughest problems, but our final answer is 75. We've got two more, and we're getting to the really tough section, but we are almost there. So we do see an exponent, so that's what we should start with first. 8 to the second power is telling me to build a multiplication problem where we see the number 8 and we're multiplying it times itself 2 times. So 8 times 8 gives us 64. So we write our 64, copy down everything around it. One thing you'll notice is that we did see parentheses in this problem, but there was nothing we could really do inside the parentheses. So sometimes you'll see parentheses and they just help us to figure out the different pieces of a problem. But there was nothing to do inside these parentheses, so that's why we do the exponent first in this problem. So I'm copying down everything around that 64, which was the solution to 8 times 8. So now that I've copied that down, I'm looking for multiplication and division from left to right. So I see 9 times 2, which gives us 18. 18 minus 64 divided by -2. So I was doing my multiplication and division from left to right. I did my multiplication. Now I just see subtraction and division. So I should finish my division before I think about that subtraction. My division is telling me to do 64 divided by -2. These parentheses were just showing me the different parts of the problem. So I can just do 64 divided by 2. 64 divided by 2 gives us 32. And it's going to be a -32 because I was just thinking about a positive 64 divided by a -32. And a positive divided by a negative still gives us a negative. In this problem, you could have thought about a -64 divided by a -2. And I'll show you how to write that as well. 18 minus a -32, we can say keep change. So we would keep the 18, change from a minus to a plus, and change from a -32 to a positive 32. So we do get a final answer of 50. Here's another way we could have thought about this problem. So at this step right here, you could have thought about -64 divided by -32. A negative divided by a negative does give you a positive. So you would have been doing this. And actually I'm going to write it like this instead. I don't want to mix up our symbolism. So if you had thought of it this way, -64 divided by -2, a negative divided by a negative gives us a positive. 64 divided by 2 gives us 32. And again, negative divided by negative is a positive. So if you wrote it this way, you would have gotten straight to 18 plus 32 because you would have already used that minus sign as your negative. 18 plus 32 gives us 50. So that's just another way to think through the signs in our problem, but we would still get the same final answer of 50. Here is our very last problem. So there are lots of steps and it looks a little overwhelming, but I know that I can use my order of operations to help me to make decisions on where to start. So my order of operations reminds me that I need to work inside the parentheses first. And I see addition and subtraction inside the parentheses, so I know that I should do those from left to right. 6 plus 2 gives us 8. And then I copy down everything around it. So there's my 8 minus 3. I had an exponent on the outside, times 3, and then copy down everything in front of it. So we have 12 minus 8 divided by 4. Still working inside my parentheses, 8 minus 3 gives us 5. So I'm writing 5 squared. Here's our times 3, and copying down the beginning of the problem. We've got 12 minus 8 divided by 4. So now that I've done my parentheses, now I should be thinking about my exponents, and I see the exponent 5 to the second power. So remember, that's telling me to build a multiplication problem where I see the number 5 multiplied times itself 2 times. So it's telling me to do 5 times 5, which gives us an answer of 25. So now I can write my 25 and copy down the rest of the problem. So here is times 3. Here's our plus sign, and I'm writing 12 minus 8 divided by 4. Now in my problem, I see subtraction, division, addition, and multiplication. I know that multiplication and division come before addition and subtraction. And when I think about my multiplication and division, I should think about those from left to right. So I see division first. 8 divided by 4 gives us 2. And I can copy down the rest of the problem. So now I see addition and subtraction and multiplication. 25 times 3 gives us 75. And then I copy down everything around it. Here's a plus sign, and here's 12 minus 2. Now working from left to right, I should do my subtraction before I do my addition. 12 minus 2 gives us 10. So now I've just got 10 plus 75. So our final answer is 85. Great work today. Thank you so much for sticking around to practice some math with me. I hope that this video helped you out. And as always, you are welcome to ask me any questions you have, or you can ask your instructor. Thanks again and have a great day.